Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, September 27th, and we're excited to be here together again with you. It's Dr. Sharon, Walt, and Paige Kaminsky. We have been talking for about almost 3 months now about self-care and prioritizing ourselves amongst everything that's going on in the world. And just last week, we had a really fun discussion, very lively, about being blasted. We're not going to tell you what that means. Go back and watch it because you're going to get a good kick out of it. And tonight we thought, just because of the season that we're in, we're going to talk about the challenges and the solutions and some ideas of how we become and stay healthy during social gatherings. So I'll give the handoff to Walt here and give us a little bit of an overview of what that experience is like.
So, Paige and I are decked out because Red October has officially launched here in Philadelphia. The Phillies are in the postseason. Any team coming in next week are going to have to win 2 out of 3 at the bank. And if you haven't seen an event live from Citizens Bank Park for playoff baseball, I expect everyone to tune in because it is insane. But that's the way Philadelphia sport fans are. And clearly in the fall, right, we got Eagles, Phillies. So we have a lot of different events. Some of us may travel to Penn State. So tailgating, right? Corporate events, right? Maybe it's end of year type things, holiday parties, corporate events, social gatherings in that regard. And who knows, fall wedding season is upon us. So maybe you may have someone close to you, a friend, a family member who may be tying the knot here in the fall. And you've started this self-care plan with us a few months back when we got started with this, and you're saying to myself, oh, wow, how do I do that? So let's talk about some of these events and how you might approach them from a self-care plan. And I'll just kick it out there, ladies. Let's start with Phillies, right? Tailgating, Eagles, Penn State, tailgating. What are some of the thoughts you may have around thinking through a tailgate situation and a self-care plan? Because you got to have fun.
Paige?
Go into it with a plan, right?
Okay.
We're Phillies fans. We're gonna go to we're gonna go to Citizens Bank Park. We're going tomorrow night. We're gonna have fun. But you got to go into it with a plan. So Walt and I will eat our lean and green before we go. So we'll have already had our dinner before we arrive at the park, so we don't have to worry about the chicken Pete fries and the stuff that's there that we aren't necessarily eating right now. We'll buy big bottles of water when we arrive there. We do decide to have any alcoholic beverages. The plan is you have your water before you have your alcoholic beverage so that you're a little bit fuller and you're not drinking as much. And go into it with a plan. You say, I'm only going to have 1 or I'm only going to have 2. And that's your plan going into it. We will take in, I've learned now, because after our last game, I couldn't take in the bag that I had our fuelings packed in, but I got a smaller bag that I'll be able to sneak my fuelings in this time. Although it's going to be colder, they won't melt in our pockets this time. So it's just always having a plan.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think the plan, sometimes people think, well, the plan is to go and, eat all the fancy, food, or the food that tastes real good because it's full of salt and sugar. Well, I want you to think about the plan of how are you going to feel the next morning? Is your plan something that you want to have an immediate response to feeling good, because those kinds of unhealthy foods make us feel good automatically? Is your plan to go and watch a game and a championship and be with friends and be with family and feel really good the next day and remember it the next day and remember it the next time you go out, right? Because a plan is based on what's your long-term purpose in your health. So just to tag along with what Paige said, great to have a plan, but think about your plan with the long-term benefit that you're going to see with it.
And I think that kind of to piggyback on what Paige said is what she also mentioned was that we're going to be a team. So while we're there, we kind of have, the pregame talk of, hey, this might happen, this might happen. We may choose to do this. We may choose to do that. And then, the good thing is because of the way we're going to execute that plan, even though we're going to be with 15 other friends of ours, this game just tomorrow night, not even, thinking about what playoff games we might attend down the road. We're going to be able to hold each other accountable because we're going into it thinking through, how we're going to want to come out of it. And it's not going to detract from the fun, the event, the way the game goes. It's going to have no impact on the outcome of the game, but we're going to have a great time because we're also going to be there together with all of our other friends and enjoy those moments. And that's kind of the challenge of the sporting events, and that's kind of what happens when you go in a stadium. But what if you're an Eagles fan or a Penn State football fan, and you're tailgating amid all of these RVs and everyone out there barbecuing, and it's a long event. What are some things that people might think about in terms of how much to consume or stuff like that? Because some of these people who are avid tailgaters do it for 6-8 hours before pregame and stuff. It's like an event. It's not just what do you think, ladies? How might that play out?
Well, we did that last year at the Pitt game, and we tailgated, and we brought. I had a cooler, and we had salads. So we eat salads with grilled chicken that I brought. So I mean, there's ways around it. You bring your own cooler with what you want in it. If you're going to have a burger, put that bun aside and just have the burger with, lettuce. There's definitely one thing that Walt and I have learned, and, Sharon, having, done this for so long, there's always a healthy option. You throw anything in front of me in any situation, in any restaurant that I go into, I can find something that is going to be a healthy option for me.
Is there a motto that anyone?
What?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off.
I wasn't confident with that in the beginning, but I am confident now. I mean, Walt will tell you when I first started this, 2 years ago, he'd say, "Let's go out to dinner," and I'd be like looking at the menu on the phone before we went anywhere, something I could eat, and he'd be, "What are you doing now?" Now it's just like, I'll figure it out when I get there.
Is there like something simple that we could give people as something to think about as they're making their food choices in these types of events, or say at a tailgate they're gonna be there, like some of our friends who are Eagle fans are there 6 hours? What are some strategies that they may want to take care of or think about in that regard?
So a couple of things that I've done or have shared with others to consider doing is, first, if you're not sure what's going to be prepared, bring your own, like Paige already said, right? So bring a healthy option, because most people, once they start eating something healthy, they're like, oh, that's pretty good. And use a small plate. There's this idea, we've talked about this on prior videos, of the 9-inch plate, and yet we eat sometimes off of 12-inch plates, or we eat off the same plate 2, 3, 4 times. Your stomach isn't that big. I don't care what the outside of the stomach looks like. The organ of the stomach is not that big, and it doesn't need that much food. And so, because we see it, we feel like we need to eat it. So grab a smaller plate. I challenge everybody who's watching, go measure your plates in the kitchen and go measure your paper plates that you might have from the market and see what size they are. Have one serving or whatever you'd like. Eat slowly. Enjoy the company, enjoy the people. We're not at a tailgate to eat. Like, we eat because we're at a tailgate, but why are we there? We're commiserating with one another. We're talking about the players and the game and the elements that are going to affect the game. So a good option is, have one serving. A better option is partnering with somebody else. And the best option is, measure your plate, bring your own food, and be really happy with what you're choosing. Because when we're at events, I want you to think about this. Are you worried about what other people are eating? Probably not. So if in your mind you're like, oh, well, so-and-so is going to see me eating salad. No, so-and-so doesn't really give a excuse me, doesn't really care what you're eating. He or she cares about what they're doing. So stop protecting your own ego with what people are going to think and do what's right for you. Respect your own self and treat it nicely. Yeah, and I'm bold about this and I'm blunt about this. And it's not because we're perfect, but because we're aware of these choices that we have in front of us. Paige,
That
any other
was,
thoughts?
No, I mean, the good point about eating slowly, because if you eat slowly, it
Brain.
takes 20 minutes for your brain to realize that that stomach doesn't need any more food. So if you're wolfing down 27 wings in 20 minutes, instead of eating 2,
Okay.
right?
Yep. Having a little bit of everything is a lot better than having a lot of any one thing. Think about that. So, if what?
I was just going to say, the other component it might be is if you're going to be in this environment for a long time, pace yourself. Pace yourself over time.
Yeah.
Maybe wait a couple hours before you go back for the next plate rather than a couple minutes. There's nothing wrong with indulging in all the varieties of things that people may be preparing, using that good, better, best concept that Sharon shared, but space it out if it's going to be an all-day event over 2 or 3 hours, and hydrate. Non-alcoholic hydration in between meals as well helps with digestion and other basis, things that you're doing as you're going along through the day, may be a good thing to consider if it's going to be a long day.
And oh, sorry, Paige, go ahead.
And another thing that I learned from, going to parties at people's houses for these sporting events, that it really does work. If you hold your drink in your dominant hand, when you're standing around that table where there's the bowls of chips, you're not absent-mindedly eating because you're not going to reach with your non-dominant hand. So you keep that drink in your bottle of water in your dominant hand, and then you're not eating the Doritos.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And it really takes people by surprise how well it actually works. Because this is mindlessness, right? But this makes you think about it. It's awkward, right? And on the same note of drinks, there's nothing wrong with having an alcoholic beverage. In my opinion, there's something wrong with having too many of them. I was exposed to that over the weekend. Not personally, but in the environment that I was in, it was an ugly environment because of that. But that's besides the point. But as long as you have something in your hand, it doesn't matter if it's water, gin, bubbly water with lime in it. Nobody is going to ask you, hey, you want a drink? Unless they are, pardon me, shit-faced already, right? So if you're holding a drink, yeah, I went there. I went there live. This is going on YouTube. But
Okay.
here's the gist. If I'm holding something to drink in my hand, no one is going to ask me if I want a drink.
Or hand you something and say, have another,
Hey,
Sharon!
have another one. Doesn't matter what's in here. Only you would know. My father would always talk about the fact that his drink, oh, it's all ice. It's all ice. Yeah, it was vodka. It's all ice. Come on. Hi. So little tips like this, do it for you. And just enjoy the moment. And I love the idea of when you said, Walt, to space it out, because we eat every 3 hours, right? Our habit is every 3 hours. So if you're at a 4, 5, 6 hour tailgate, you should be eating more than once. And don't be that like, I'm going to go just have some lettuce. That's not normal either, right? So eat a little bit, wait, play some games, like maybe bring games to the event. I'm sure people do that anyway. I don't go to a lot of tailgating. Bring a book of questions to ask people, and then engage in conversation to keep you busy from the eating. And then you go, oh, it's been a couple hours, I'm going to eat again. So I like that idea.
Yeah, I think that would work out well, largely because we do it every day. The next challenge I think that we would probably agree could be a challenging social situation. I call the wedding is the simplest one, right? It's the catered event, potentially the sit down event, the open bar event. Any thoughts on those types of events?
So interestingly, we have a wedding coming up on Friday. Yay, Katie.
I hope I'm ready for that.
Yeah. But you know, for weddings, you get the little card and you get your choices of what you're going to pick for your meal. And it was a no-brainer what we picked. I mean, it was the healthiest option of the three. And so we know going into it what to expect and what we're going to be having for dinner. So that we were able to plan for. You know, other events, maybe not so much. But if it's like some weddings are more like buffet style, keep it in mind, the smaller plate, maybe instead of taking the big plate, you take the appetizer plate and go up and get stuff instead, and go twice instead of the 15-inch platter that you take up there. You know, that would be an option for you as well.
And I think, you know, we alluded to this. I think all of these ideas have the same principles of how you can make these events successful is partner with someone. So if you're going to a catered event, or you're going to someone's home, have an accountability partner. Hey, I want to try both desserts. Will you get that one and I'll get that one and we'll share it? That's an example. You can both have a little bit. You don't need two of your own. And you can have an accountability partner for, you know what, for every drink I have, can you match mine with a glass of water? You can have, you eat once, then you clean, you know, you can put your plate down. So these concepts of planning ahead, knowing how you want to feel, the concept of preparing something that you can bring to an event, and having a partner, you know, those three things alone, I think, can help you modify how you show up at events and still be really good about your choices.
Yeah, I think with the catered event, the wedding, the corporate event type of thing where you're inside, I think that the dessert table becomes a bigger challenge than at potentially a tailgate or in a ballpark or stadium, just largely because, you know, wedding cake, cookie trays, perhaps pies, you know, cupcakes. So, I mean, thinking through how you would want to go about, like Sharon just mentioned, sharing desserts, small plates, thinking ahead that what that sugar effect's going to have on you, because we know that, you know, sugar is going to change what happens in your brain and start some things going on just because the refined sugar that you're having. So think through that dessert tray, think through that dessert table. And as we mentioned, a good thing is good, better, best. What's the good option? What's the better option? What would be your best option, you know, based on the way the evening or the event is going, to stay on your plan or the plan you set for the event.
Fabulous. And I think that the reason we always talk about good, better, and best for ourselves and with all of our clients and just anybody in general, like my patients, is there's nothing wrong with making a choice, right? There's nothing negative. We create the own negative for ourselves. Like, I ate too much then. I might as well blow the rest of the day. I mean, I'm sure everybody has done that, right? No, you made a choice. It just is. Some choices move us closer to our goals. Some choices keep us right where we're at. And some choices move us a little farther away from our goal, which is that whole idea of how do you want to feel the next day? How do you want to feel by the next event? How do you want to feel by the end of this year? There's 96 days left until 2024. I posted that earlier. Did you have any resolutions for January in 2023? Did you meet any of them? Most people probably didn't. But these ideas that we share with you each week about self-care, you can apply these and don't feel bad. Don't make it anything negative. Make it a positive and think this is a good or better or a best choice, and you'll ultimately win in health. So, any final words as we wrap up?
No, I just thank everybody for their participation. Feel free to leave notes on the YouTube channel, notes in the Facebook posts, anything, any feedback is always good feedback. And enjoy Red October.